Good morning, friends. Good morning. How are you? Well, village men like me get into massive trouble with our girls when we move to Diaspora. And I'm about to tell you all about it in 10 minutes. So stick around and let's have a conversation. But before we do all of that, again, today is a different morning. It's actually one of the few mornings where it rained quite a bit last night. It rained quite a bit till, I think it was from like 3 in the morning till 6. And the sun is a little late, but looks like it's about to come out. I've been waiting for it so I can charge my solar batteries. But yes, rain or not, it's a great morning. Thankfully, we don't have a lot of dust because of the rain, and we are still grateful. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Wanodede. We welcome you to Kisumu Karateng, which is in Western Kenya, a place we absolutely love. This is where we hope to spend the rest of our time here. But in the meantime, I still go back and forth between Long Beach, California, and Karateng, Kisumu. So if you're joining us for the first time, please, if you can, check if you have subscribed. Add your name to it. We really value your support. If you're not able to subscribe today, I hope you can join us as a regular viewer. So for those of you who know that I am in the process of coming back, I help people do the same. There are many people of African descent. People just love Africa and are trying to come back to live a dignified life here. So whether that journey involves buying property, building homes, doing things like landscaping and all that, we help with things like that. So all you gotta do is reach me in the number below, and I'm happy to do what I can to help. So anyway, folks, like I said, I'm hoping that wherever you are, life is treating you kindly. But if not, at least the next 10 minutes, we're going to have fun. And I'm going to talk with you about the things that get village men like me in trouble. And when I say village men like me, I talk about men who were born and raised in very small towns or in rural areas. I think we represent a unique breed. Some people call us Kienyeji, which often means distinguished men. And so for a lot of us, the gap between the village and diaspora is much bigger than those who were raised in the city. So when we come to diaspora, we experience some things that I think might be unique to African men that are raised in the village. And so for those of you who are married to some of us, you may be able to connect with the 7 things I'm going to share that often get us in trouble. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the culture of smoothness around girls. Culturally, we are raised to act very differently when we're in the presence of queens. Anytime we're in a place where there are women, almost instinctively, there's that desire and drive to be soft and smooth. And so naturally, we sort of find ourselves just marinating girls with words. I'm talking about just words, where you're simply just marinating a little bit of paprika, roiko, lemon pepper here and there, just being smooth and gentle with your words. Those are those words that typically I think would delay a girl's journey to heaven. And it's not necessarily flirting. Although when we come to the Western world, that sort of behavior is sort of seen as flirting. When for us, it's just a cultural experience where, as we were raised as young men, you are taught that when you're around women, it's perfectly fine to be smooth and just basically tholo manyangato, tholo toto. And that is not something that is strange in the village. I remember growing up, sometimes even when you greet a girl, you would extend one of your fingers and scratch the middle of her palm. Only village girls would know what that is. Just basically being smooth around women. And it doesn't always mean that somebody is flirting. In some cases, yes, it is flirting. But in many cases, it's just a cultural experience around women. Friends, that will get you in trouble. Don't do that. Don't just do that. Because in the Western world, they see that and immediately somebody is thinking, oh, you're probably hitting on them. So don't do that. That is one thing that gets a lot of village folks like me in trouble. Now, the second thing that gets village guys in trouble in diaspora, especially with our girls, is the idea of minimizing certain things. That your girl might raise up some issue, but for you, because it doesn't seem like a big deal, you are like, okay. And then you see her go off, and you're like, what's going on? I think that's a minor thing. Like, for example, something like a Mother's Day would come up, and you're like, oh, okay. And half the time, we barely remember it. In fact, for me, the only thing that I do that saves me is I have to put them on my calendar. In part because in the village, calendars and dates mean very little. Because, first of all, most of us don't even know our actual birthdays. There are many of us who only get birthdays when we're going for passports. And so they assign us some kind of a random date. Even when we were going to school, they didn't even know how old we were. So you go to school, and the only way they would tell how old you are is they would ask you to touch your ears. And if you are long enough or tall enough to touch your ears, then they would assume you're old enough to get to grade 1. And so many of us, by the time you get to grade 1, you already have children and grandchildren. You're that old. Essentially, people get to grade 1 around 9, 10, and something like that. And so dates don't mean a whole lot, like anniversary, the first day when you did what, birthdays. Those things don't mean a whole lot for village folks. And so it's a culture that we find ourselves forced onto. And so please, if you're a village guy, use your calendar. Whatever you do, don't forget those dates, because you will get into a world of trouble. And again, when you talk about minimizing, besides dates, there's some things that our girls really value that for us don't mean a whole lot. Like, I know some of us live with women who are very, very particular about how their kitchens should be. Like, they don't want dishes in the sink. So leave dishes in there, see what happens to you. So please don't minimize stuff. Just because it's not important to you, it doesn't mean it's not important to other people. So there are things that I don't understand, but I will respond to them. And then the other thing that gets us in trouble is our method of husbanding. All of us are socialized to think that the primary role of a husband is to provide. Like for me, all I'm thinking about here, I need to make sure that the bills are paid, everything is sorted out. If there's an issue, you're fitting in it, and then you move on. And then we forget that many of our girls also, besides just providing, require TLC. This is one of my biggest struggles. I could go for so long and I don't even notice. And then, of course, in many cases, it's the girls who are going to bring up an issue that's happening in the relationship. Oftentimes, we see those things that we ignore. And so when we actually husband in the ways we were socialized, some of that may rub our girls the wrong way. And especially when we're married to girls who didn't grow up in the village. Some of them really struggle with the way we husband. And that said, when it comes to issues of birth control, remember, this is not up to you. In the village, it's perfectly normal for a man to tell a woman, hey, no birth control. Let's just Adam and Eve all the way. Don't try that in diaspora. You are going to get in a world of trouble. In my, as I know, that is a decision that is made by a woman. And of course, there's consultation. The couple, both men and women, are going to have a discussion if she lets you, but ultimately she gets to decide what's going to work for her. So don't do what we do in the village where we tell women, hey, no birth control. It's just a ching. Don't do that. It's going to get you into a world of trouble. And in fact, sometimes I think men can also take charge from the perspective that you do the birth control part. Whatever works for you, you do it. Because again, some of these birth control options are really tough on women's bodies. And so if there are things you can do on your part, it may actually make it easier for your spouse. Now, the other thing that gets us in trouble is relatives. All kinds of trouble. Because you have relatives from your wife's side, you have relatives from your side. And from your side particularly, if you have people who are unreasonable, it's your job to sort that out. We all struggle with that. I haven't figured that out really well. But I know when it comes to relatives, things are a bit really dicey because in the traditional sense, it is expected that the woman spends most of her time on the man's side. And that's the village way. And so when she comes in and there's issues in between, that will get you in trouble. Personally, I honestly have not figured that out, and hopefully we will. So if folks have a better way that they're doing this, let us know. Now, the other thing that will also get you in trouble is consultation. Sometimes we just do things. As village men, sometimes we just wake up, like once you build a home, you have a nice home, your wife is happy, you just wake up and decide, I think I need a man cave over there. And then you just pop in and do stuff. Then your wife shows up like, hey, what is this? How come I have no idea this is going on? The girls we live in the Western world, whether they're from Africa or the ones we meet out there, often require a lot more consultation than many of us are socialized to actually do growing up. And so just make sure that even when you don't think it's important, feel free to just check in, because there's some things that you might think are minor. And in many cases, we don't do this with ill intent. We just don't think it's a big deal, so just go ahead and do it. And then you realize, hey, your girl is not going to be happy. And then the last thing that also gets us in trouble is the number of kids. In the village, we're like, hey, as many kids as possible. We are cool because the systems allow us to do that easily. You can hire a nanny. Life is relatively inexpensive. In diaspora, that is not necessarily up to you. And having been through this as a father, I would not want to be the one deciding how many kids we have. I've seen what pregnancy can do to a human being. I would not want to do that. So anyway, folks, stay out of trouble, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.